Hello and welcome to a new vlog and video in cooperation with ReiseJung. We're taking a look at the first 2 days on board of the Swiss Diamond. Yes, the first 2 days again, because we are now on the second cruise with the Swiss Diamond. We're starting in Hanau and we're heading to the Mosel River. And here on the map you can see our route today. We're starting in the port of Hanau. We're leaving it in the afternoon after the disembarkation and embarkation of new guests. As you know, in the last video we arrived here from our last cruise coming from the Netherlands, and now we're heading to the Mosel River, sailing under the low bridges of Hanau, but the sun deck remains open as our Swiss Diamond is a bit smaller than our other ships, only having 2 instead of 3 decks, so there is enough space to keep the sun deck open even on the Main. The first highlight is the passage of the city of Frankfurt, seeing the Manhattan, the skyscrapers of Frankfurt. And then there was a very big highlight. One of our guests organized a water fountain of a fireboat for us because he is part of the fire brigade of Frankfurt, so his team coordinated training with the passage of our ship. So of course this was very impressive to get this honor. Usually only ships that are christened or reaching a port for the first time, and I'm talking about ocean ships, are getting this honor. So it was something very special to experience this on a river cruise ship, knowing that this fountain is just for us. So that was a magical moment, of course, also perfect start of our cruise. And then we continued heading out of Frankfurt, heading to the Rhine River, and it was time for yet another fantastic dinner. Of course, we already know that food quality on board is amazing, so we were also looking forward to the first dinner on board. And then we enjoyed a nice relaxing evening on the sun deck. Yes, it was a very nice summer evening with a beautiful sunset and very nice and warm temperatures, so it was a perfect evening on board. On the next morning we've already docked in Koblenz and we headed out into the city center. Our guests were doing a walking tour through Koblenz, and in the meantime we did our own private tour. Of course, first stop has to be Igelossia, which is offering the best ice cream of at least Koblenz, if not in Germany. I really enjoy the ice cream of this company, so of course we had to go there. And then we showed our guest artist Valerie and Thomas the Schengelbrunnen, the Schengel fountain. The Schengel is this little guy up there that is spitting out water, and Thomas was expecting it to be for like 1 or 2 seconds, but this guy is actually spitting water for quite a while, so that was quite funny. And then we're headed into a shopping center, and after that it was time to head back on board because we were supposed to leave Koblenz during a lunchtime. So it's time to head back on board and enjoy a nice lunch. But unfortunately there was a problem with the lock and we had very long waiting times. It took several hours until we were allowed to enter the lock, and therefore we were delayed a lot. Our captain tried his best to arrive in Cochem on time for our wine tasting in the evening, but unfortunately it was impossible due to the lost time here at the lock of Koblenz, and we were delayed by several hours. But still, we were enjoying the afternoon on board because we are now on the Mosel, one of the most beautiful rivers in Germany. And just a couple of minutes after leaving Koblenz, you can already see why it is such a beautiful river. We're passing the village of Winningen. We can see a lot of vineyards. And then we're reaching the Moseltalbrücke, Mosel Valley Bridge. It is the 3rd highest bridge in Germany. It's the Autobahn A61, Highway A61, crossing the Mosel Valley in an altitude of 136 meters. There are only 2 higher bridges in Germany, another one on this river and the Kocher Valley Bridge. But also this one here is always very impressive to see. After that we are passing Kobern-Gondorf, where we can see the first castles. On the Mosel, of course, also on the Mosel you can see a lot of castles, and one of the most interesting one is the Castle von der Leyen, because it has experienced 2 drastic changes to it. First one was in 1876 when the Mosel Valley Railway was constructed. Therefore, the castle was split in two parts and the church was dismantled, and they put the railway line straight through the castle. And even more drastic was the change in the year 1971 when the street for the castle was built. And to build the street, they teared off the ground floor of the castle and built a street right through the castle. A few minutes later, after passing the lock of Lehman, we are getting closer to the city of Alken, where we can see the beautiful castle Turand. On our way back we will also stop here in Alken. Fortunately the castle was closed due to summer holidays, but it is still worth hiking up there just for the views, so we will see that later on in an upcoming video. Here we can see another beautiful small river cruise ship called Cruise Vita. It will sail for Ainsa Vista in the next season of 2026. And then we have yet another interesting castle, the Castle Bischofstein, which we can see here in the background. And then we were meeting another interesting ship. It is the Charles Dickens, and we were sailing on this ship in the last season for 2 cruises, so maybe you remember my videos from this beautiful ship, the Charles Dickens. Then it was time for yet another fantastic dinner, and then as our wine tasting had to be cancelled as we were delayed, our 2 artists, Valerie and Thomas, offered to make a spontaneous show to keep our guests entertained, even though we had to cancel the wine tasting. So we had, even without the wine tasting, a fantastic evening on board with those 2 offering us a fantastic show. And of course we also had some good wine on board. And of course we're also gonna listen to them for a short moment here in the video.
In other words, please be true. With a famous star above, and I know Cecilia high has an aeroplane. Make a brand new start of it.
And after a nice late night snack, it was time to go to bed, and that's it for the first video of our second cruise with the Swiss Diamond. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded and the name of the song. As always, I would like to say thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment, like, subscribe or share the video link, and I hope to see you in my next video. And of course you're gonna find a link to ReiseJung and to Valerie and Thomas in the video description.